Hello and a greeting to all the people of the planet. Today is 19th of October. My name is Abbas Tamori. It's been about 2-3 weeks that I've taken a vacation. Not that I've gone anywhere, but I try to take time out from this project to re-energize. But about a year that I've been speaking to you, I'm like a thinking machine. I can't stop thinking, and that probably makes me get older faster. My mind is analytical, and if the subject is of my interest, I just go too much towards it. And when the result is not what one looks for, in my case, I could hope the result to be much better than this, but I also know that it can't be, because the way it works is in a natural way, and the people that would have to come, I was hoping to be at my own time to help me out, but they may not be around. Plan of God, Baha'u'llah might be something else, that I have to go and join the League of the Heroes, because the people of this planet, they like the leader and the thinker to be dead first, and then they want to follow him. It seems the truth is like sun that appears, it burns all the people around him, and then as the sun goes away and further away people goes from it, its fire and its warmth turns into light. And that has been the case wherever the prophet of God came. From that region nobody could accept him, whether Jews about Christ, or the Arabs about Muhammad, or today Iranians about Baha'u'llah. It seems it just burns those people in that country, because God seems to be hopeless about them. This is why the sun appears there, and so they all just get burned. But people from far away, such as United States of America or other countries, Europe's, they see that fire, giant fire from Iran, gives light. And oftentimes is the case that when the envoy of God, whether it's in the form of a manifestation such as Divine Majesty Baha'u'llah, or a small tiny little one like me, who is just an elder, it seems that people at this time, they can't digest them. God really is planning for the people in the future. This is why ahead of the problem he brings his person to solve the problem. A few years from now, this issue of the women not being able to get to the universal laws of justice, which they can't, but having no role internationally in affair of the Baha'i faith, it will bring up a great big issues that virtually takes all the people, alienate the Baha'i faith completely. And that is the time when they look at these videos and then they find somebody had a solution. But how beautiful would that be if the people of this time, right now, they would come and help me out to fix this problem, which really, it's 3 ways this help that can come to me. The first and the least important is that I have a lot of money. Better than that is to have those who give money, which are the people that are more important, supporters. And the best of all is that universal laws of justice come to the point and says that, okay, they agree with what I say, and they recognize me as an elder, and I could, have some good possible positive energy in the planet. But universal laws of justice cannot do this. I'm sure they're behind me if there were not by now many crazy Baha'is of Iranian type would have killed me right now in Toronto. Universal Laws of Justice probably have told them that not to act anything that is not within the Baha'i faith, and the Baha'is should not attack other people based on their ideology. This is why they left me alone. I'm sure they're behind me spiritually anyways. But the point of view of the Universal Laws of Justice, I believe, is this, that how can we support you when nobody is around you? We are representing the people who have elected us, in a sense that we are reflections of their thoughts. And the society at large does not know you. So how it should work is that the machinery of the cause of God is off track. It should work, but it's off track. We just have to put it on the rail. How would you do this? Is that those who accept what I say and study well, completely they know whatever about it, and if they have questions to ask me, they have to firmly stand behind me and write letter to Universal Laws of Justice and talks about it. And I bet you more than 20 people, if their right is cut off, their administration right is cut off because of being with me, that's good enough to pry the Universal Laws of Justice to come down and say that we have to think more about this. The reason is that Universal Laws of Justice really, as they have stated, the member of the Universal Laws of Justice has stated, this administration was embryonic, but now it's just born. So it's a baby. I've given this example before, that Shoghi Effendi, which is the guardian of the cause of God, infallible, so was the Universal Laws of Justice. But Shoghi Effendi was, whatever the gardener was planting, he would go behind the gardener, Mr. Abul Qasim, and he would take all these little seedlings from the ground, uprooted. And Abul Qasim, which was the gardener of the Holy Land, chased him to beat him up. And Abdul-Baha was there and said, no, don't do this, you don't know him. It's the only time he has to play. He would be suffering all his life. Well, Abul Qasim immediately came and apologized, and then understood, Shoghi Effendi is a child. Universal Laws of Justice is in such a state. It's a baby, it's a child. But it is, once grown up, it becomes the king. I'm not in a position to become your leader or any other man. The leader is Universal Laws of Justice, but because it's a child, a lot of people manipulating it. This is their point. And that is what I'm going to be talking tonight about. We have, as a Baha'i, have heard the term covenant breaker. You're all familiar with it. A covenant breaker is the individual that goes against the framework of the Baha'i faith. Essentially, I'm going to be discussing in detail about them. Before Bab comes, there were Sheikh Ahmad and Sheikh Kazim. Sayyid Kazim, when he was there, he said to them that after me there's nobody else, and you have to go and search for the promised one. But one of his follower, this fellow from Karim Khan Kermani, he did not accept Bab. He was after money and after women. He could not see this is going to help him because he was afraid. So he started to fight, with Bab. Became a covenant breaker. And when Bab comes, a lot of followers. This stepbrother of Baha'u'llah, he comes totally against Baha'u'llah, poison Baha'u'llah, because he had some kind of a fabricated writing that he thought it means that he's the, successors of the Bab. And then after Baha'u'llah clearly says, my son Abdul-Baha is the center of covenant, the younger stepbrother of Abdul-Baha also went against Abdul-Baha just because of sheer jealousy and seduction. did that. So was the Shoghi Effendi time. I'm going to go detail in that. So what constitute the covenant breakers are three types of people. Some of them are really the sheer seduction, such as Azal, which in the Bible even calls him the beast that's sitting on the chest of God. And this beast, which is Azal, was just again after money and after women, after becoming famous. He had no perspective about God and anything like that. He was just, was there. This is one type. The other type of the covenant breaker, they have philosophical confusions. They're not necessarily bad people, but they get confused. One of them is Mason Remy, which I'm going to explain about what he did. We have to know where the sources of this covenant breaking is. And then of course there are people that they have a grudge with other Baha'is, in this case today, right now, with administrations, and because of their opinion they are called covenant breaker, which is the case of me. So are they covenant breakers or not is very simple. The person who believes in Bab was the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, the return of all the prophets of the past, but he is the elder of Baha'u'llah and the forerunner of Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah is the founder of the Baha'i faith, the first ever global manifestation of God that rules the entire planet, who had successors, Abdul-Baha, his oldest son, to be interpreter of his writing. And after Abdul-Baha, the Shoghi Effendi, the grandson of Abdul-Baha, was the guardian of the cause of God and interpreter of the holy writing. And after him is the world order of Baha'u'llah. So, if a person believes in Bab, Baha'u'llah, Abdul-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the world order of Baha'u'llah, is a Baha'i. That's it. Doesn't matter. Every other opinion he has does not make him wrong. It is not about right and wrong. If you believe these 5 pillars and the foundations of the Baha'i belief, which is believing in Bab again, Baha'u'llah, Abdul-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the world order of Baha'u'llah, which is 2-branch, universal laws of justice, and institution of guardianship. This is exactly according to writing. Such a person is a Baha'i. If he doesn't believe in this thing, he's wrong philosophically. And if he wants to fight with the Baha'is, then he's really a covenant breaker and enemy of the faith. But if he believes in this thing, then he's a Baha'i. Now, within the Baha'is, it's not about right and wrong. It's about right and left. You see, this is the point. The Baha'is, they have different opinions. It is a matter of the nature of God. Mankind in this planet, anywhere you go, especially after the coming of Baha'u'llah, it's very peculiar of this age of time that people are right and left. They're conservative and liberal. It's just 2 views they have. It's just the way they are. The people are. You've seen it in your children. You've seen it in your mother and father. You've seen it in your friend. Some people are naturally conservative. Some people are naturally liberal. We could see it in manifesting itself in all the democratic countries, such as Canada, United States, many Europeans, Australia. And there is democracy, because these are like branches that are in the nature of mankind, that it manifests itself. In any country that these 2 are not there, and one of them is cut off, there's dictatorship. Because they're not allowing the loser party, the one who's a smaller, to have a voice. They dictate over him. But in the United States and Canada and Australia, we allowed them, just as the majority, to have the voice. In fact, come to challenge the majority and to win it. So, my dear Baha'i friends, try to understand This is not about right and wrong among the Baha'is. It's about right and left. Some people are on the left, some people are on the right. So here comes the term. You've heard of covenant breakers. I'm going to talk to you about covenant brokers. This is not a satire. I'm not joking. There are covenant brokers. Who's a broker now? Breaker, we know. Covenant broker is a very dangerous man. He's an enemy within. And sometimes, this always shows if this is. God protect Baha'i faith from the unwisdom of his followers. And wisdom. So, who's a covenant broker? A covenant broker is the person that stands between God and you. He's like a broker. He wants to sell you the religion. He says you have to come through me. What do we know him? We know him as a priest, as a mullah, as a clergies, ecclesiastics, the divines. They are responsible for killing majority of the people, prophets of God and martyrs. If they were not there, which Baha'u'llah calls them, the big clouds, as it says at the day of resurrection, it's them. The sun is hiding behind them like a cloud. They're clouding the people. Iranians didn't know that. Because of this cloud, they did not see Bab to be the Imam, and they thought Khomeini is the Imam. And they got it now. You see? Are they in the Baha'i faith too? Unfortunately, yes, they are. Many of them, they have no status, but some of them they do. So, you have heard too much about covenant breakers, and I'm going to bring a story of Azal in particular to your next speech, and the matter of it Mason-Remy, because one of them, Mason-Remy, represents those who are philosophical confusions, and Azal is a pure, seductive, satanic man who has no ideology except power, fame, and women, and sex, and passions, and anything materialistic. So, this is what is very important for us to understand, who are the covenant brokers. Were there at the time of Bab, Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, and Shoghi Effendi? Yes, they were. I'll give you one of the examples to see how we can demonstrate a covenant broker that was distinguished by Baha'u'llah immediately, and he shut him down. And also a manifestation of being left and right, and not right and wrong, but left and right. This is the story about the first Baha'i in the world. His name is Mirza Agha Jan Kashi. This Agha Jan was the actual secretary of Baha'u'llah. He would write lots of, I don't know, more than half of the writing of Baha'u'llah. Especially after he was poisoned. Baha'u'llah was poisoned by his stepbrother. He could not write. His hand was like not Parkinson disease, but because doctors said that he has taken hemlock, which would kill any ordinary man. But by miracle of God, Baha'u'llah was survived it. But his hand was shaking. And even before that, he had his Agha Jan to write things. Baha'u'llah gave him instructions on the questions, and he would go and write it. Then he would come to Baha'u'llah and read the answer. Baha'u'llah made corrections and then sign. It's like a secretary does the job. We have many of these kind of tablets, which is signed as Khadimullah, which means the servant of Allah. Khadim means servant, And it is signed. It's not the exact word of Baha'u'llah, but it is what Baha'u'llah signed under it. They are, Baha'u'llah says, is my writing, and there's no difference between any of those writings with other writings. So this man is a pretty important man, very trusted, Long time served Baha'u'llah in all areas. There were some Baha'is that are coming, I guess, from Iran. Long time, They take them those days 3 months, 4 months. God, now 6 months. You have to imagine to walk on the horses and donkeys. some of them were elder people, to come all the way where? In Palestine, where Baha'u'llah's in jail. All they could do to say to Baha'u'llah like this behind a bar of those big jail, and Baha'u'llah would shake, his hand. There was a time that they would allow people to come and see Baha'u'llah, because Baha'u'llah was out of the prison and he was banished to be living in that city. He was not allowed to leave the city, but it was like a prison city. They came to see Baha'u'llah. I've read it, but I don't know where right now to give you the reference, the exact reference. But he just basically told them Baha'u'llah's tired, or he's not able to see them right now, or something like that, to that effect. And people were naturally disappointed, but at the same time understanding whatever the Lord says. But eventually they calmed down, and Baha'u'llah understood what has happened. He said to Khadem, which is this Mirza Agha Janakashi, do not do that anymore. You have no authority to say to the people to come to see their beloved. You're not representing me on the issues that is not your business, especially about this kind of thing. I'm just asking you to write down the letters, but that does not give you the power to tell to people. You break their hearts. If you break their heart of those people, God will, the whole entire throne of God will shake. They're so innocent and good. But Mr. Aljan, the bureaucrat, maybe, yes, but it's like one of those servant that you get them in Europe at the time of the Middle Ages. You would get him. I remember a servant like that was in the story of the Victor Hugo, The Man Who Laughs. And when he found out he was the big, lord, this the man who laughed, from the street he came down to become a lord. He had the servant, but the servant would dictate him, although he was his master, would almost dictate him how to do it. I remember the story. I just said to myself, look, this Aghajan was like that. And Baha'u'llah knew that this guy think that, okay, he can write on my behalf. He probably think on the back of his hand, oh, I am like Baha'u'llah. And he goes on further beyond his authority, that he's not. Because this is the spiritual realm. This is not a social foundation. You're not something, you cannot pretend. It is very amazing if you do. If you do, then you are a covenant broker. So he was trying to stand between Baha'u'llah and others and explain who Baha'u'llah is, what Baha'u'llah feels, and is not wanting. That is what I call him a broker. Baha'u'llah distinguished him, told him, do not stand between me and my followers. I do not accept priest. That's what the case was. It was shut down. Now I'm going to tell you something bigger that I should have said in the last video. At the time of death, when Baha'u'llah was ascending, he was dying. So, by the way, this man did again the same act. He did it again on some other occasion. Baha'u'llah this time excommunicated him. Told him, go away. Can you believe it? Told him that I told you once. This is the second time you committed this. You go away. So, Baha'u'llah is dying in the bed. Abdullah, his son. Abdullah was so great. Baha'u'llah would respect him so much that when he entered in the room, Baha'u'llah would stand and he says, the master arrived. That much Baha'u'llah respected Abdullah. Abdullah was huge, Baha'u'llah clearly calls him. He's like a bay, like a gulf, he says, that's branched from the ancient ocean. It is part of me, he says. So the same being, that's Abdullah, goes to Baha'u'llah, says, Father, forgive this Mirza Agha Janakashi. What do you think happened? At the time of death, his son is asking. Baha'u'llah said, no. My God, when I read this, I said, what is going on? Then if this man is so wrong, why Abdullah is asking this? Doesn't Abdullah know that he shouldn't ask this? I said to myself, Is one of them wrong? Is Baha'u'llah wrong? Is Abdul-Baha wrong? What is going on? I am like this, a thinking machine. I'll go into details, okay? I have a microscope, like I'm like Sherlock Holmes. I have to look. Why is this thing happening? Because it's a historical fact, and it is an action of the creator of the universe. We know him as Baha'u'llah, but it's not just Baha'u'llah that you know him as a body. Never mind that. That's just an episode of a reality. This Baha'u'llah, what you see him, his name is this, born here, and there is mother and father, just a persona of a reality called Baha'u'llah. Glory of God is the will of God that has created the entire universe. Is representing that glory, that willpower of God into the body of Baha'u'llah. For this time, he's just acting. The same thing was Moses and Jesus and so on, and there will be billions of other acts as long as man lives. This is how God connects to us in that image. So, we're talking to Baha'u'llah. So, this is not a simple thing, you know. My God. So I have to detect, because that's how I understand things, that why didn't Baha'u'llah forgive this Mirza Ghajan Akashi? He didn't. And he dies. Baha'u'llah ascends to God, or to himself, I should say. And Abdul-Baha said to all the people, do not call Mirza Ghajan Akashi a covenant breaker. He said that. Do not call him that. And he told them, just you stay with me all the time. He was a short guy with a red beard, you know. Abdul-Baha kept him always with him. So said people are not allowed to attack him or say anything to him. It's none of your business. And in here, he was different. His opinion was different from that of the Baha'u'llah. Do you, my dear Baha'is, see this? So right there, you can see the manifestation of right and left. It's not about right and wrong. It's just there's two sets of opinions. Okay? Two sides of it. But those who are giving those opinions are not enemy of each other. It's the same as this. I'm not enemy of universal laws of justice. It's a child of God. I am the teacher. The guardian. I have to help understand him. But there are people around that they're preventing me to go. They're acting just like Mirza Ghajan Akashi. These are board members, these are assistants to the board members, and these are the counselors. Individually, these guys are good. But as soon as they wear the uniform and they call themselves counselor, boom, something gets into them. Like a lot of police people. Police is a man. But as soon as he wears the uniform, he turns around and becomes a different things. So what do? Because you need the force to have a counselor, to have a voice on behalf of universal laws of justice to work, but this is going to be imposing as a person over the people. We need that. But that is going to push people down. You need immediately a counter-attack, force together to stand. You see, this is how you make it. Going back to the story that I was saying, this fellow was preventing the Baha'is to come and visit Baha'u'llah. He was a broker. This is not a covenant breaker. He was a broker. Baha'u'llah told him that, don't do that. This is what's happened to me. I sent a letter to Universal Laws of Justice. I didn't send it to National of Canada. I wouldn't dare to do that because they're not infallible. They might get misguided, or a local assembly. I sent it to Universal Laws of Justice. And I'm not getting an answer. Why? Because some people manipulate Universal Laws of Justice. They should not answer this thing. We should not talk. And those other members, you know, the black guy or other people that are not Persian, they don't know. They just said, well, okay, maybe this man, we shouldn't, or this or that. Okay? So they became like a wall between me and Universal Laws of Justice. What did I say? I didn't say Universal Laws of Justice is wrong. I don't believe in it. I'm coming to replace it. None of that. I just said that there has to be a universal laws of guardianship as it is in the book. So finally it's an opinion. So what do you do to a person who has this opinion? Tell them, okay, keep your opinion to yourself and leave it to us. We'll see what happens in the course of time. Right now, you have something found in the faith, in the writing. You've left it with universal laws of justice. Let it stay here. We know, Mr. Taimur, you're a good Baha'i. Continue on teaching and everything else. And don't bring this subject and topic to other people. It might be confusing, because I didn't. Of course, in the beginning, me and my ex-wife and Mustafa was talking about it, because all together we found it, really. You know, it was a talk between us. But I wrote a letter to Universal Laws of Justice. The matter went to Councillor Qadirian. He sent a letter to National, and just the issue has spread all over the place. I didn't do it. I knew this should not come out. But they didn't. Why do you think Universal Laws of Justice cannot act, even like a local government that's in the city of Guelph in Canada, to say to me that, okay, this is your opinion, good, curious, we'll think about it, but you're a Baha'i, continue your duty as you were before. Thank you for your discovery. And that's it. But you call him an infidel. This Councillor Qadirian, in his letter, you have to go to my website. He says, confront you. I said 30 million people in Iranian, they were trying to change my religion to stop me from becoming a Baha'i. I slapped them. They couldn't do nothing. Now, you're threatening me. That's not the way Baha'i faith works, I said, is it? Nah, he didn't understand anything else. But he's a good guy, though. I have to say that. Just he goes into this form of calling himself consular, something goes wrong, because he's just one. There's no counter, things to counter him. So, this is the word, covenant brokers. Be careful. Be careful. Where these covenant brokers come into the place right now in the Baha'i faith is lots of them. At the beginning, when there's Bab and Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi, well, it's all one thing. There is no two sections here, it's all one. But as soon comes to the world order of Baha'u'llah, all of a sudden becomes two branches. You see? This branch before was Baha'u'llah, revelation, Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, interpretations, the two, divine, one being. Now handing it out to the people, transferring itself into the world order of Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah becomes universal laws of justice in a way, because they legislate and bring new laws like him. And universal laws of guardianship that I propose, and it is in the writing, would do the continuation of job of Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi to interpret the writings. Now at this time there's no Baha'u'llah, there's no Abdul Baha, there's no Shoghi Effendi, there's no Bab to find out who the brokers are. Breakers is easy. Covenant brokers are hidden. We don't know. Baha'is, you don't know. The reason that Baha'i faith doesn't work, in everywhere in Canada, there's more than probably 200 Baha'is in a city, of which you see 10% of them participating in the gathering. Because there are certain people impose themselves with a priesthood attitude, like faith is theirs. I've seen among the Iranians all the time. All the time. All the time. They would go in Iran to the point they would say to the people, you should not even have to have beard and mustache. Mr. Wahidi in India was telling me that I was in Mr. Qadimi, Riyaz Qadimi is one of the greatest scholars in the Baha'i faith, there's no doubt. But he said in the class, because this guy was colonel of the army, he says he was telling us that I should not have mustache. I should not have beard. Well, Kitab Aqdah says you can have beard, but this Baha'i teacher understood that you should not have beard. Because they might understand you're a Muslim, because of your beard. So I told him to the students that you should not have beard. And Mr. Wahidi said, I left the class, I told him that I can't accept this. And he was angry and he was mad, he's gone. Now you want to call him a covenant breaker on account of not having beard? That would be seriously, something. But I'm sure Mr. Qadimi didn't like that at all when he left. In Iran, dictatorship was working very badly. So a lot of people like that, they were around in Iran, very many. And I've come to Canada. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of Canadians that I've encountered. There's a lot of them right there.